Welcome to my Skyrim series. Now I know what you're thinking, another Skyrim playthrough, but wait, hear me out. I promise this one is different. This is the story of Seroth Ashvale, Dwemer, healer, and all-around good guy. He's the type of man who would drop everything to help someone in need, except life had other plans. This is also a tale of betrayal, redemption, and let's be honest, plenty of shenanigans. I first tried my hand at this kind of storytelling with old school RuneScape, and after a fair bit of chaotic fun, I thought, why not bring this to Skyrim? It's got dragons, magic, and an absurd amount of people who somehow need healing after deciding to fight a bear with nothing but a spoon. So here we are, ready to dive into the world of Seroth Ashvale. Now Seroth might have started off with good intentions, but life has a funny way of turning people into villains when they least expect it. Banished, falsely accused, and blamed for things he did not do, Seroth is stuck with a label he never wanted. Villain. Spoiler alert, he's really not into it. It's like being forced to wear a shirt you hate, but for the rest of your life. And yes, it's as uncomfortable as it sounds. So grab your potions, your sense of humor, and your most sarcastic face, because this ride is about to get bumpy. Between epic quests, chaotic encounters, and Seroth's constant battle with his own fate, you'll see that even a reluctant villain can still find redemption, if he doesn't get distracted by shiny objects first. Join me on this adventure, and remember, Seroth Ashvale may not want to be a villain, but he sure does make one heck of a reluctant anti-hero. Let's get into it. We start our adventure in, well, let's call it a cozy little cave. Seroth's home for the time being. It's not exactly a 5-star resort, but hey, it's got 4 walls and a roof. Well, kind of. At this point, all Seroth has to his name is the clothes on his back, a staff that looks like it's seen better days, some potion ingredients that may or may not be expired, and a journal, one he's really into. He writes all his deepest, most personal thoughts in it. But don't worry, since I'm the narrator, I'll let you in on a little secret. I'm going to read his whole journal out loud. The first passage reads, I was a healer for years in the Grey Quarter of Winterhold, and then, out of nowhere, the whole city gets hit by a plague that they think I caused? I've done nothing but help the needy and heal the nobles. Basically, I'm the medieval version of a doctor on call 24/7. I spent my whole life doing good, and now they think I started this plague? Ridiculous. I have to clear my name somehow. Yeah, nothing says reluctant villain like being accused of starting a plague you didn't even know existed. But don't worry, Seroth. Clearing your name is probably just a few random quests and potentially a dragon slaying session away. In order for Seroth to clear his name, he first, well, needed to survive. Cold, hungry, and probably questioning every life choice that led him to wear an old potato sack as a coat, Seroth set off in search of food, water, and let's be honest, anything warmer than what could be described as barely a functioning piece of cloth. So with what little he had, which let's face it, wasn't much, he began his journey. As he trudged along the path, desperately hoping for some sign of relief, Seroth eventually stumbled upon an abandoned house. Freezing, starving, and possibly a bit delirious from the cold, he figured, why not? Shelter is shelter. Inside, he found a place, while abandoned, at least offered protection from the brutal wind. As Seroth stepped cautiously into the abandoned house, his eyes adjusted to the dim light, and landed on a woman slumped against the wall, clearly injured. Ever the healer, Seroth's instinct kicked in. He approached her, staff in hand, and looked a genuine concern on his face. Let me help you, he said, voice soft, channeling the bedside manner of a man who'd spent years patching up people who thought ale was a cure for everything. The woman's eyes narrowed, and with more venom than a frostbite spider, she snapped, I don't need help from the likes of you, stay away. Seroth rose mid-step, blinking in surprise. The likes of me? He repeated, glancing down at himself. What's that supposed to mean? Is it the potato sack? It's temporary, I swear. But the woman wasn't having it. You're not touching me with those cursed hands. You probably started the plague, she hissed, clutching her side as if she'd rather bleed out than accept his help. Seroth straightened up, offended. cursed hands? Lady, these hands have healed more people than I can count. And do you have any idea how difficult it is to wash plague accusations out of your reputation? Spoiler, impossible. The woman glared at him, lips pressed into a tight line. Seroth sighed, throwing his hands up in surrender. Fine, you know what? Bleed out. See if I care. I'll just go rummage through your cupboards for something edible. Maybe you'll feel less judgy after you've had a nap and lost more blood. As he turned to walk away, the woman muttered under her breath. Men, always making everything about themselves. Seroth paused, glancing back at her. And women, always refusing perfectly good medical help from strangers in potato sacks. What a time to be alive. With that, he wandered into the next room, leaving the woman to stew in her self-righteousness and probably regret her life choices. Then, as if fate had a sense of humor, Seroth found a letter laying around. Because of course he did. The letter seemed to hold some promise, so he opened it, hoping for something useful. The message read, Seroth, if you're alive, I know the plague wasn't you. I have information. Meet me in K. And just like that, the letter ended. But that wasn't the frustrating part. Oh no, the frustrating part was the smudge. No matter how hard Seroth squinted, tilted the paper in the light, or tried to read it upside down, that blasted word remained indecipherable. It could have been a map to the world's best sandwich for all Seroth knew, but that smudge stood between him and the answer. Now, with his only lead being a single letter K and an unresolved smudge, Seroth had no choice but to follow the trail, wherever that K led him. He was going because at this point, anything was better than staying in a cave wearing a potato sack. Plus, it was the only lead he had. With the vast, cold expanse of Skyrim stretching out before him, and way too many places beginning with the letter K, Seroth decided that the best course of action was to make a list of all the towns, cities, points of interest, and landmarks starting with K. Simple, right? Well, maybe if he wasn't just a healer from Windhelm who had spent more time tending to the sick than learning the geography of Skyrim. Sure, he'd heard of a few places during his time in Windhelm, but they were mostly either small towns or outposts run by groups of bandits. Seroth quickly realized that the only way to get an accurate list was to ask the smart people, and where better to find a bunch of intellects than the College of Winterhold. He figured if anyone knew their way around the cave places, it'd be the scholars, assuming they weren't all holed up in the towers, casting spells or arguing over ancient tombs. So with no time to waste, Seroth set off on a journey to one of the coldest places in Skyrim. And how did he prepare for this grand adventure? Well, he didn't exactly pack a warm coat or anything sensible. Instead, he opted for what many cultures call a loincloth, because apparently modesty and practicality were just so last season. Hopefully, Winterhold's frigid temperatures wouldn't freeze the... Well, let's just say he wasn't looking forward to that part. But hey, at least the College of Winterhold was famous for its magic. Maybe someone could just cast a warmth spell on him, or at the very least lend him a cloak? After what felt like an eternity of trudging through the frigid, soul-crushing cold of Skyrim, Seroth finally reached his first destination, Winterhold. He approached the college only to be greeted by, well, let's call her the gatekeeper, because she wasn't exactly rolling out the welcome mat. The college was reluctant to let him in, which is fair considering he looked like he just rolled out of a snowbank wrapped in what could only be described as a glorified towel. But Seroth, ever the determined soul, decided that freezing his you-know-what's off was a small price to pay to convince them to let him pass. And surprise, surprise, it worked. A little bit of sheer willpower and frostbite got him through the door. Once inside, Seroth approached the professors and asked for their help with his list. The scholars, being all wise and fancy, told him they'd only help if he completed a little task. You know, because nothing in life is ever free. It was basically a lesson in being accepted into the college. Though Seroth wasn't sure if the lesson was more about magic or about how to get cold faster than he thought possible. But hey, what else was he going to do? So he agreed. This led him to Sarthal, a mysterious old ruin where he was told to help an old wizard named Tolfdir. After navigating through the ruins like a lost tourist, Seroth stumbled upon a hidden chamber, almost as if something was whispering to him. Seroth. Inside the chamber was a massive glowing orb, pulsing with energy, and oh yeah, still talking to him. Embrace the dark magic within you, the orb was saying, like it was the world's worst motivational speaker. Seroth naturally didn't want to sound completely insane, so he kept quiet. Instead of telling Tolfdir about the strange voice in his head, he thought, I'm a good man. I don't need to embrace dark magic. I'm a healer. What am I going to do? Bring people back from the dead? Is this foreshadowing? Maybe. Just maybe. After all that, Tolfdir invited Seroth back to the college, where Seroth saw his chance. He asked the kind scholars for the list of places beginning with K, and surprisingly they agreed. They even gave him some clothes to replace the barely there potato sack he was wearing. Good thing too, because at this point Seroth was looking like a walking popsicle. Now how should Seroth tackle this list? Logic would say in order of proximity. But Seroth isn't exactly swimming in common sense. Instead, he opted for the alphabetical order method, because why not make things unnecessarily complicated? Sure, it's the least efficient way to traverse Skyrim, but hey, who am I to tell him how to live his life? And sure, I, the narrator, could swoop in and point him in the right direction, saving him from hours of pointless walking and redundant backtracking. But where's the fun in that? Let's watch him suffer for pure entertainment purposes. Yeah, I'm sabotaging him, but it's funny, right? And that's a wrap on the pilot episode of my Skyrim series featuring Seroth. If you enjoyed the chaos, the cold, and the questionable fashion choices, be sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and of course, subscribe. But wait, before you go, I want to let you in on a little secret. This series isn't just shaped by me. It's actually shaped by you. Yep, that's right. If you want Seroth to embrace the darkness and become the villain he never wanted to be, just let me know in the comments below. If you'd rather he be the shining beacon of goodness, healing people and curing plagues, despite, maybe starting that plague, I'll make it happen. And if you're feeling a little adventurous and think Seroth should walk the chaotic neutral line balancing dark magic and healing people with questionable decisions, then by all means let me know. Seriously though, your comments will guide the story. And don't worry, I've got all the paths planned out already. Will Seroth be good, evil, or just a walking dumpster fire of decisions? You decide. Drop your thoughts in the comment below, and let's make this story one for the ages. Thanks for watching. You guys are all legends.